What if I told you that the woman every era calls the most beautiful woman on earth would be unrecognizable to the era before it and the era after it? That for 25,000 years, people are asking the same question: what is beauty? And for 25,000 years, we still don't have a single answer to that. Pale skin was once a luxury, then tanned skin became one. Foreheads were shaved to look more beautiful. So which one was right? None of them? All of them? That's kind of the point. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And for a very long time, I thought it's just a saying that people say to make you feel better about yourself. But the more I study art history, I just realized that this is true. Literally, historically, and provably true. I am Nicoleta, and today I want to take you through 4 versions of the same woman. 4 Venuses, separated by thousands of years, in order to show you what beauty is all about. Every girl goes through this phase of questioning her beauty. And for me, that phase meant I was questioning everything about my body. I went through a phase where I wanted a rhinoplasty because tiny noses were in trend. Then I looked up routines to grow taller, and I straightened my naturally wavy hair with keratin a couple of times, only to realize that I look like everyone else and my natural volume is gone. And I'm saying this not to brag in any kind of way, but to show you how easily dependent I was on trends and marketing campaigns, and never even thinking about my own definition of what beauty is. In his book, On Beauty, A History of a Western Idea, Umberto Eco makes the point that beauty is never only about how something or someone looks. He writes that what really moves us is mostly perceived with the mind's eye rather than the eye of the body. The qualities of soul and personality underneath the form. Not the kind of arrogance or vanity, but the genuine, healthy confidence within your mind, your body, and your soul. It's less about having a certain kind of features, but more about what you do with your own natural features and how confident are you in them. Just think about it. How many times have you been pulled towards someone just because you liked how they looked, only for that pull to evaporate the second they opened their mouth? And how many times someone has become more and more beautiful the moment you started getting to know them better? Not because their features changed, but because you changed how you were looking at them. Beauty without anything underneath it doesn't hold. It needs intellect, strength, power. Yes, inner power, but sometimes even outer power to be able to hold. So let's test this theory against 25,000 years of evidence. This is the oldest Venus in art history, found in Austria and carved approximately 25,000 years ago, only 11 centimeters tall. Archaeologists still aren't entirely sure what she was made for. A fertility charm, or a goddess, or a talisman made for survival. Some scholars think that she was actually carved by a woman, sculpted from the only perspective a woman has of her own body, looking down at her. And what's interesting is that her face was never carved. It was just a pattern left there. In an age when survival was not guaranteed, when famine could take you in one season, a body that looked nourished, fertile, and able to support all these hardships was the one that was most adored. And this was what beauty was. Capable of carrying life through hardships was the most beautiful thing a person could imagine. A few thousand years later, you get the Venus of Milo, the Greek statue that is currently in Louvre. The Greeks added mathematical proportions to that, like symmetry, the golden ratio, and I want you to look at her body. It's actually closer to an average woman's body today than almost anything you'll see called ideal. In the Greek era, it was the epitome of beauty. Fast forward 25,000 years, and beauty does a complete reversal. The Renaissance gives us Simonetta Vespucci, a noble woman that was so praised for her beauty that Botticelli used her as a model to paint the birth of Venus. And she became the famous face of Western beauty, Venus rising from the sea on a shell. But an interesting aspect is that Renaissance ideal of beauty wasn't natural at all. Women plucked their hairlines strand by strand, sometimes using tweezers or caustic pastes to have a bigger forehead, since that was regarded as the epitome of beauty in those times. Skin had to be pale, dewy as a lily, as it was called, because having a paler skin meant that you didn't have to work outside, that you had people working for you. And I actually relate to this more than I expected to, only from a different angle. As you can see, I have very fair skin, and growing up in Moldova, my home country, that was rather perceived as a question mark. People thought that I'm either anemic, or I lack vitamin D, or I just stay indoors the whole day. Where I'm from, a tan is a symbol of beauty, and it's also a status symbol, because Moldova is landlocked. Therefore, we don't have a sea. And having a tan means that you have the money to leave the country and go to the sea. So fair skin, in my case, reads as the girl who never leaves the house. As you can see, beauty has always been more of a social construct than specific features that one has to have. What is scarce and more exclusive equals to be more beautiful. And there is a whole theory about this called conspicuous leisure, invented by the sociologist Thorstein Veblen in 1899. His argument was that paleness became beautiful specifically because it was a status symbol, which meant that having fair skin equals to the fact that you don't have to work outside, equals to the fact that you are a wealthy person. Or in my case, getting a tan equals being beautiful because, again, you have the resources to go outside of the country, to go to the sea, and get yourself the tan. So it isn't the color that people find attractive, but what that color is evidence of. Wealth, status, a life that doesn't require labor. And then beauty flips again. By the late 1800s, painters were still painting Venus in the old Renaissance style. But underneath the corsets that were shaping the ideal body, women were pressing their waist to dangerous extremes, choosing an hourglass shape that ironically was inspired by the Greek Venus de Milo. Then, in 1923, a woman steps off a yacht with an accidental sunburn. Her name was Coco Chanel. And almost overnight, the entire Western beauty concept reverses itself. Tanned skin, which represented for centuries the mark of the working class, suddenly becomes the mark of leisure, of glamour, and of wealth. Overnight, corsets get thrown away, waists disappear, and the ideal woman goes from soft and pale to lean, straight, sun-kissed, and modern. As you can see, none of it is about the body at all. It is about whatever the wealthy, the powerful, and the visible people of a specific decade decided to be doing. Which brings us to nowadays and how we are reinterpreting beauty trends. In 2008, the Chinese-French painter Yin Qin decided to repaint Botticelli's Birth of Venus and decided to give her distinctly dark hair and Asian features. And in 2017, the Afro-Cuban American painter Harmonia Rosales went even further. Her painting Birth of Oshun takes the exact scenography of Botticelli's Venus, only gives it a different goddess, which is the Yoruba goddess of love, fertility, and rivers. Rosales said that growing up, she never saw beauty depicted with hairs like hers, so she repainted the goddess to look like her daughter. Her own words about the piece are that not all Venuses are born the same. However, this leaves me with a couple of questions. Is contemporary art's relationship to beauty only this? Reinterpreting the old icons, reclaiming Botticelli, or repainting Venus, rewriting who gets to stand on the shelf? Both of these artists reached for the same 500-year-old painting to state their points. And I don't say it as a criticism to either of them, but it does raise a question I cannot fully answer. Why does a new idea of beauty so often need to wear the clothes of an old painting? Why is it Botticelli's composition, Botticelli's pose, Botticelli's Venus every single time? Why not a beauty standard that doesn't need to borrow its authority from a painting it is correcting? Maybe because Venus has become so mainstream, so changing her features on her face to prove a point is easier than a brand new image of what beauty is representing now. Or maybe it's a kind of dependency we haven't fully shaken. Like we still don't quite trust a new idea of beauty to stand on its own, without an old master's frame around it to make it legitimate. I don't think there is one clear answer, but I do think it is worth asking ourselves if we can make a new statement about beauty without needing to distort or correct a version of it from the past. Or is every new Venus, by definition, going to be in conversation with the old one, forever repeating the same shell, only making a different point? My personal take on this is that I honestly feel like beauty needs something fresh, and right now I understand that we are trying to liberate ourselves from one single definition of Western beauty specifically, but I feel like by choosing to reinterpret old paintings and just, alter them, I think we're not doing justice, nor to the painting nor to the point we want to prove. This is my personal take. Let me know if you don't agree or do agree with me in the comments, and I would love for us to have a conversation there. Because for me, what changed completely my perspective about beauty and what it represents was the moment I started to lean in more in the history of art. Once I saw how wildly the idea of beauty moved across centuries, I understood that the whole narrative about beauty is definitely flawed. Because how can you chase a rule of beauty when the rule itself has been changing so much over centuries? So now, when someone tells me that I should tan, or I should eat more, or I should do whatever it is to do this decade decided about what is beautiful or not, I simply smile, because now I understand that beauty is more of a social construct and is not something that is tied to our looks. Honestly, the more confidence you have in yourself, the better you look. And, prove me wrong. I know my body exactly as it is beautiful because I decided it to be. Because I decided it to claim that I'm my own kind of Venus. And once you understand that your own beauty and your uniqueness is the most important thing that you have for yourself, you start to look at the world differently and you start behaving even differently. Like, I really dare you to just look at yourself as a Venus. Look at yourself as a painting that is so beautiful and admired each and every day by you. And you'll definitely start saying that this confidence that you have, that your body is your own temple, will definitely change how you perceive your body and will also change how other people perceive your body, because confidence is a two-way thing. You have to have confidence in yourself, and once you have confidence in your own powers, you start seeing people looking at you, talking to you in a different manner that respects this confidence that you have. And I think that the real gift art history gives us is proof, like real painted or sculpted proof that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. So if you're struggling with how you look, I would definitely encourage you to go look. Look at what was praised 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, and look at different cultures. What were the epitome of beauty of those cultures? The more you look, the more you know, the more you educate yourself, the more confidence you build in your own beauty and in your own features. And the more you just embrace them, And once you do find yourself in all these beautiful features that you have, seeing how they were portrayed across centuries, it gets a lot harder to believe what the industry is telling you about what to fix, what to improve, what to make better. But the most important point is that you no longer look at yourself as something that has to be fixed, but as a goddess, literally, as a temple that has to be respected and venerated and taken care of. So let me know in the comments which era would have called your features the ideal. And as always, thank you so much for supporting my journey. Thank you so much for watching my videos and, interacting and engaging with them. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure to do so. And I will see you in my next video. Also, let me know if you want a part 2. Bye for now.